Alright, today's nerdiness is going to be focused on some simple machinery, I guess we'll call it. So I'm going to walk you through my homemade log splitter. I didn't come up with a quippy name for it, but I was tossing around between like the cannibalistic log splitter or Hannibal log terror or something along those lines. Who knows? Maybe it'll get a sticker one of these days. Most of these I see online are made out of metal. Some of them are trying to sell you plans on how to do it and kind of take away some of the fun of experimenting with it. So I have a bunch of lumber laying around the backyard, and on Amazon you can go and you can get this kindling cracker head for 23 bucks. You can get a rear automotive spring for a couple dollars and a screw jack for a couple dollars, and an hour and a half and some drinks with a buddy, and we kind of put this thing together. So I want to walk you through what we did to see if you want to try to replicate it yourself, or at least have a starting point for your own. So this is mostly made out of scrap wood I had laying around from previous projects. So I realize not everybody has that laying around, but everybody's got a lumber store nearby that you can go by and you can procure some of this relatively cheap stuff. Here I've got a 8-foot 6x6 that I just ripped in half to do the upright supports here, and some 6x6 blocks for bases. And then I was kind of just messing about with, here's the main beam, which is a 4x6, and then these 2x4 legs for stability. Kind of made up an angle that I thought would work, and that ended up being 10 degrees. So here I cut 2 wedges out of a 4x4, about 2 inches long, on that 10-degree angle, just to kind of get those legs to be wide enough to have a decent support base there. So here you can kind of see where my mind's eye was going with all of this before we lagged it together. And I had a bunch of 8-inch and 5.5-inch lag bolts laying around from previous stuff, so I just threw them in where I thought appropriate. Here you can see it kind of coming together. Kind of at least supporting its own weight as of now. And it was about this point that we stopped for some hydration. Much needed.
Okay, what do you think's wrong with this design?
Well, Randy, I think maybe, based off of mechanical advantage, you may want to be about here on your fulcrum.
So you're saying my wood's not long enough?
Yeah, you don't have enough wood, which is your problem.
Story of my life. I think we're fine. Let's roll with it.
So here's a night shot. We were able to get this 2x6 cut and nailed in there, and then just some scrap 6x6s to come up and over, kind of give this whole thing some lateral stability. Again, we're just kind of guessing, going off of some plans that I saw mainly out of metal on the internet. But we got that scrap 6x6 there, scrap 6x6 here, and then we've got this Baker's scaffold screw base in there. This is 14 inches long and gives tons of adjustability. About this point, we decided to call it a night, mainly because there were some owls in the area and it sounded like they wanted us to have another drink or two.
Who needs more drinks? Who needs more drinks?
So here it is the next morning. We had to run to Home Depot quick for a 10-inch length of 1-inch black iron pipe and some caps, to use that as our pivot point. And it just kind of fell together then. So really a scrap 6x6 on the end there to hold the head, and a scrap 2x4 to use as the handle to slam down then to actually split the logs. But I'll give you a quick close-up here. Pause if you need to look at anything closer. So here you can kind of see the spring action a little bit. Pretty bouncy. I did end up going up a couple of rotations on that scaffold screw just to get it up a little bit higher in final use there. So here we got some testing. We got a 5.5 inch, 7 inch, and an 8 inch round of ash. We had those ash boring beetles come through a year ago, and these things just started falling down every time the wind blew. So we've got a bunch of those rounds laying over there to cut up. Some of them are absolutely gigantic and I think are a little bit too big for this. But this 5.5 to 8 inch limb range is going to be perfect for this machine, even as it sits. So you'll see this first one, the axe head goes in with the first little whack, and then boom, just splits it right in half with that second one. Pretty darn easy. Easier than me trying to swing an axe and line that up. This next one, 4, 5 whacks. I don't know if it's just because I blew right through the first one and I was kind of babying it, but then this third larger one, just plow right through it, and then this next cut, again, takes a couple of whacks, but it eventually goes through. And again, with a little bit more accuracy than me trying to swing an axe time and time again and hit the same spot. I'm not fantastic at it. Here's about, I don't know, 10 minutes worth of wood. So it didn't take long at all to split that stuff up into reasonable campfire wood sized chunks. So I'll go over exactly what I used here to make this, just in case you guys want to replicate. So again, we've got 2x4s, just 8-footers for the legs, then a scrap going along. I want to say this is like 3 foot here, about 2 foot from the end. We've got a 2x6 underneath these 6x6s. Got a 4x4 here, just cut on a little 10-degree angle just to help set the angle of those legs. Scrap 6x6 in between 2x6 uprights. This 2x6 was an 8-foot length that is ripped in half, so this whole unit is 4 foot tall. The Baker's scaffold adjustable screw base sits 24 inches up from the ground and is screwed into this 6x6. This thing has 14 inches of adjustability up and down, and then it is sitting on the cheapest springs on Amazon that I could find, which were for a 2005 Jetta. Then got a 10-inch long 1-inch black iron pipe, which is some really crude holes drilled through the 4x6 that is 8 foot long. And at the end of that 4x6, we've got a 2.5 foot long 6x6 section of scrap with a maybe 3.5 foot long 2x4 for a handle, and then this Amazon kindling cracker wedge bolted on the end there. I took the angle grinder and took some of the powder coat on there. It was laid on pretty thick and kind of rounded that over, so I wanted to give that a nice reasonable point. So I just hit it with the angle grinder real quick. Nothing crazy or fancy. Now a lot of these I've seen out of metal are really, really rigid. It's coming up and down right on the money every single time. Nice thing about this is it kind of has a little bit of side-to-side play, so you still kind of can steer that a little bit should you need. You might hate that, you might love that. I don't mind it. It allows you to kind of aim and fine-tune where you're going a little bit. You know, all these metal ones that use a really rigid pillow block bearing, like, it's going where it's going, which could be good, could be bad depending on your use, I don't know. Anyway, fun little experiment. Totally worth an hour and a half of time and under $100 with some scraps and parts from Amazon. I will still continue to use this kindling cracker though for making actual kindling. You know, we love our solo stove, and we're throwing firewood around like crazy in that thing just because we are constantly outside. It was 27 degrees yesterday, and we just love doing nighttime fires. Doesn't matter how cold it gets. So I like cracking kindling on this thing. Just have it bolted to a nice sturdy base, but it gets you can get you can break it down a lot easier than with the this cannibal log splitter, whatever we're calling this one that we just made. So, if you want to quarter a log, use the cannibal log splitter. You want to do real fine kindling, hit it on this thing. Have a fire with your family, with your friends, have a drink, enjoy it. If you guys like this content, let me know. Good luck. Like and subscribe. Maybe you'll see more of it.